On our show, United Cannabis Club News, I have a very special guest, JP Fatta,
Thank you.
CEO of Kush Klubs. And today we're going to go through everything that you're doing right now within the cannabis industry, how things are changing. There's so many things we can talk about with
Yeah, agreed.
you. You have launched a campaign.
Yeah, so we recently, over the last couple of weeks, and you have to excuse my voice, but allergies. So over the last couple of weeks, we launched a Regulation CF crowdfunding campaign
Okay.
on WeFunders platform to raise capital for Kush Klubs. And it's actually been going really cool. We've got about 30 investors so far on it and raised, I don't know, $60-something thousand so far,
Yeah.
right? So it's now beginning. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, and let me back up a little bit. You know, I'm really jumping right ahead into your fundraiser right now, but let's talk about how long you've been in the industry, what your background is, you know, what led you
Yeah.
to create Kush Klubs.
A lot, actually. So
Do we have enough time?
yeah, I know, right? we could do it in a series, in a 10-part series. No, so I've been, involved in the cannabis industry for about a little over 2 years. I probably got into it in late 2019, mid to late 2019. And we were coming off a project, a technology development project of a streaming platform. So even backing up further, I've been in software development for pretty much my entire life, and have been in incubating and starting up different businesses and or investing in startups. So I'm very familiar with all of the highs and lows that go into the startup culture. And I wanted to get into cannabis, and we were coming off this project, and I started to kind of look at the supply chain, to try to figure out where I could fit in. And at first I was going to invest in it, because backing up even further, I'm a huge advocate of the plant. And I've been so since I was a kid, but for different reasons back then.
And you're actually from the island, right?
I am. I'm from Trinidad. And my father's from Jamaica.
Is that embedded in the culture?
It is more in Jamaica than it is in Trinidad, but it's embedded in the culture. Trinidad drinking is more embedded in the culture and what they call liming or partying. But cannabis is. And even though it's been illegal in both Caribbean islands and decriminalized in Jamaica in the last 15, 20 years or so, they still don't have the progressive thinking like California did or other legalized states, right? So I kind of wanted to get into it, but I was reluctant because of a lot of the inherent challenges that I think the cannabis industry is going through. Back then, now predating prohibition and coming out of that into the medical and into the rec side. But still, I kind of started to pursue it. And I put a small team together to start to do some research in the industry, because I had no idea anything about it other than obviously being a patron of it. And that kind of began our pursuit of it back then. And then fast forward to today, we've identified a lot of what we feel are challenges plaguing the industry. And I guess we could go into it more in this discussion, but it's exciting to be part of this type of potential explosive growth that this industry provides, as well as I think a lot of the benefits that I think legalization globally will provide for the plant and for consumers. But yeah, we're taking it day by day.
One of the issues we have as a cannabis-related business is definitely in the financing. I think that with federal legalization, that's one of the major factors of what business owners are struggling with.
Agreed, yeah, 100%. And I think we talked about this last time. The only reason I think it's not federally legal is they haven't figured out how to grab their piece of the pie. You have everybody putting their hands in this, like you would with any industry that I guess is experiencing this kind of this jump from the illicit market to the legalized market. And I think they're trying to figure out how to tax it, right? And that's the only reason why it's not federally legal yet. Once they figure that out and figure out how it trickles down, then I think it's going to open up a lot of things. But to your point now, you heard about stories about them, putting money under their mattress and putting money in safes in the ground and not in being allowed access to banking or merchant services. And you're seeing a little of that ease up now as they find workarounds. But I can't remember which company it was the other day. If it was Ease that got penalized for creating a workaround to get merchant services onto their platform by using a dummy company. May not have been them, so don't hold me liable, Ease, if it's not you. But you're forced to do these almost illegal measures to protect your business and sustain your business and grow your business. And on top of that, you're being raped and pillaged with taxation, right? Everybody has their hand out at the state, at the county, at the local level. And it's really unfair.
Yeah. It's really weird when you go into a dispensary and use your credit card. Actually, the local dispensary I go to, there's an app they've started using, and I'm not sure if that's a workaround for them, but it's really weird because I need to pay for the weed through my phone, and like they send me a code. So I don't know what software they're using.
It is, yeah.
But your startup, Kush Klubs, you are working on a fintech
Yes. Yeah.
version, right?
Yeah. So right now, there are a few workarounds that they have. Number one is the point of sale terminal acts as an ATM. So one of the ways in which some of the merchant companies skirted, and these would be localized, meaning that you'd have credit unions, right at the state or local level. There are banks that are regional banks that are becoming more cannabis friendly. If you're plant touching, right? So those banks will cultivate, but MasterCard, Visa, or American Express are all at the federal level. So they can't legally allow cannabis to flow through. That's why PayPal, Stripe, and those other companies are very prohibitive of allowing cannabis to flow through. Otherwise, you figure you'd open up a Stripe account or a Square account, you could start doing business. So if they find out, they'll shut it down. So there are workarounds. The first one was that your terminal acts as an ATM. So you go there, your account, your bill is $28. They'll tell you I'll round it up to 30 because they had to round it up as if you were withdrawing it from an ATM to trick the system in the back end. So the system thinks that you're there, all right, at an ATM terminal, and you're taking money
That's
out.
what they're doing at that dispensary that I go to.
Yeah. So, and then they tell you, I'll give you back the $2 cash.
Yes.
You can leave it as tip, you can take it with you. So that's the first way in which they curtail or they skirt the law. The second way is these fintech companies that have been popping up that do exactly what you said. You download their app or you open up their web application, you go to the dispensary opens up their POS, it generates some sort of a code for you as a customer ID, it recognizes who you are, and then it takes out of your account and you pay the transaction, right? That's another way that they're doing it. Most of them only do it with ACH though, which is your direct bank account, not your actual credit card itself. And then the ones that are doing it with your credit or debit card are 100%, as long as your debit or credit card has a Visa, MasterCard, American Express logo on it, they're in 100% violation of the federal terms. And those companies could end up in hot water, right?
Wow. Okay. So I'm so happy I get to talk to you about this because this is a huge problem. I mean, it's legal depending what state you're in. You know, I'm able to go to dispensary. I'm able to purchase weed. Then I'm doing this workaround transaction, you know, and they're talking about easing the laws so people can actually conduct a business, but the amount of red tape that people have to go to, that dispensary owners and business owners have to go through right now is just making it so difficult to even have a regular business. So.
Yeah, you talk to business owners that are retail owners, dispensary owners, and you'd be surprised how many of them are, I mean, their hands are so tied. You would look and you'd say, okay, you're selling weed, right? You're prototypical, you're a drug dealer, you know, on the street, you're selling weed, you're making money, you always have a client base. But the hoops that they have to go through, the accountability that they have to have, the tracking, and yeah, there's software out there now that's making it easier, but it's only in the last couple of years. And even then, these guys, most of these retailers, cultivators, manufacturers, aren't business owners, aren't business people. They were hustlers that came up through the black market, the illicit market, and have now kind of retrofitted their business or have gotten opportunities in the licensed market. And they're learning, right? I mean, to credit them, you'll learn, right? You can adapt, but they're not creating sustainable wealth yet. Most of them can't even expand past their present infrastructure because of all of these limitations that they have. So in essence, they are making the market, they are testing the market, they are carving out a placement in the market. They're doing all of this work, and eventually the larger players are going to come in and say thank you very much, and now they're going to overlay their infrastructure on top of that, and it's game over for everybody else, for a lot of them, right? So it's not as, you know, sexy as a lot of people think it is, right? Or glamorous, or they're making this money hand over fist. A lot of them are you know, working to pay taxes, right? And most of the money, because what they do is they do what every other business does, right? They use the money that they need now, and they defer the money that they owe to the bank, to interest, to loans, to taxes, and then they hustle every quarter to get that money in, and all that money goes to pay taxes, and then they start back over, and it's kind of a cycle. So they don't get to save money for expansion, for example. Some of them do, but a lot of them, you'd be surprised, don't. That's one of the things we realized when I was getting into this. I started with the retailers, right? Because I'm not a manufacturer. I have no manufacturer experience. I'm not a cultivator. I don't have a green thumb. So I'm not any of those guys. So to me, where if I had to invest in the present infrastructure and not create something for it, the retail location would be where I'd start. So I started there, and I mean, it was shocking, right? I forget the statistic now, but how many percent of them don't make $500,000 a year or more in revenue, right?
Yeah.
So.
And, you know, as I've been having these discussions with people in the industry, I'm learning so much and realizing that it is very important that we are involved in the law-making decisions, because the lawmakers, it's great if we get it legalized, but we really need to stress the importance of protecting the local business owner, because these laws, you know, they could essentially make marijuana legal, but for the corporations.
Yeah, which is essentially what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Right? You forget you're fighting against lobbyists in industries that have billions of dollars of discretionary funding to be able to influence the decision making process, right? And they're not taking small businesses. Look, if 2020 alone showed anybody anything, it's that there's very little protection for small businesses, right? They claim that they want to protect it, but the small businesses were closed, but Walmart was open, right? In Australia now, they're shutting down again, or they've shut down. They're fighting this battle now, and I'm watching these videos, and the small businesses are not allowed to open. The unvaccinated are not allowed to. We don't need to get into that, but the larger corporations are there, and they'll always be there, right? And that's the same thing here now with this overlay. Nobody, do you think they care when big pharma comes in, big tobacco comes in, big box retailer comes in, Amazon comes in, Walmart comes in, CVS, Walgreens, pharmaceutical companies, beverage companies like Diageo, Coca-Cola. They're not gonna care, and they're gonna come strong. They're gonna come hard. They're gonna come ready, and all of this that's being now done at the local level for the local business owners is all a test for them. They're all analyzing the data.
Yeah.
Right? To know what to do, where to go, what demographic they're going to serve. This is like a big test for them at this point in time. And yes, some will get acquired, right? Because you create enough of a value proposition, you have a creative leverage of some sort of differentiator, you're needed for something. Only if you are needed for something will you get acquired. If they can come quicker, faster, cheaper than acquiring you, they're gonna do that, and they're gonna roll right over you. And a lot of these business owners that are in the industry, I think COVID taught them a lot as well, because at the beginning of 2020, when we were going into lockdown, there was an uptick in sales, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, wow, this is good, but people were stocking up. And then you saw as it sort of eased and went into 2021, the demand went down a little bit. Now they're struggling, right? And now the other day I had a meeting last weekend. I met with this farmer that just bought this land in the Emerald Triangle. He's now cultivated 180 pounds. He did his outdoor. It's his first attempt. He's a former business guy. He wanted to get his hand kind of in the industry. And I was kind of meeting with him, and he produced 180 pounds of outdoor grown, multiple strains, his first harvest. He was looking to sell it, so I started to make some calls for him, and I told him, I said, look, there's an oversaturation of product in the market right now. And as I'm making calls, this time last year, so it's a commodity. So the cannabis itself, not the products that you make from cannabis, like the tinctures, the oils, the edibles, but the commodity itself, it's a commodity like frozen orange juice or any other commodity that it fluctuates, depends on supply and demand, right? But there's an oversaturation of product in the marketplace right now, which you think should ultimately drive the price down for the end consumer, but it's not. The end consumer is going to pay the same price that they were paying before. They're not going to change their price, and they don't change their price. So they're going to make the spread difference, right? And I guess rightfully so for them, because of all these loopholes, because of all these challenges, because of all these restrictions, that they need to figure out how they can benefit from, say a harvest or whatever it is, because sometimes they'll be able to get X amount. I'll make 100%, other times 20, 30%. But there's an over saturation of product in the marketplace right now. And that's gonna, so I was talking to these guys that are farmers, and they're saying that they don't know how farmers are gonna survive this wave right now, right? And the ones that do survive are the ones that were either they had the infrastructure before, right? And they have the backing to survive what's going on right now. So there's a little bit of a shift happening now too. But it's also a cleansing as well, right? You know, because everybody kind of jumped into, it's like the gold rush.
Definitely.
Right?
It is the new gold rush.
Yeah. So everybody's trying their hand at it, and sometimes that can mess up a market as well. So there needs to be market stability, but it's not going to come yet. It's going to take a long time for that to happen. But also as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, an unstable market, albeit risky, offers you your greatest upside potential as well. So if you could figure out how to get in, and you could figure out how to create some sort of a leverage position in a market that's changing, and you figure out how to kind of maneuver through it, you will more than likely create some sort of wealth, a lot of wealth out of this market as well.
Yeah, and let's talk about Kush Klubs and all the problems that it could assist with.
Yeah, so again, I don't think we have enough time, but we could
Go back a little bit to you said that you were doing your own research and how you were seeing the deals conducted. You allowed deals to be conducted in front of you?
Yeah, so I did. I wanted to see, so I allowed these guys to come with their bags of weed samples, and then I kind of watched and observed. And by the way, it's probably not a safe thing to do, right? But, you know, I figured at the end of the day, you know, California's legal. It's, you know, almost like you're turning an eye. And again, the only reason I think they're cracking down on the illicit market, for obvious reasons, safety being one, because you never know, right? The second is taxation, because they're losing a lot of tax. I remember when we started this, they said that 80% of the market was in the black market.
I think you told me that last time we met.
Yeah.
That's a huge chunk.
It's a staggering, if you have 1 million people that smoke, 800,000 of people in the black market, that leaves you only 200,000 for the licensed market, which is a huge challenge for any business if you want to tap into a customer base. If you can't tap into that customer base, because that customer base, you'll never get to them, because the whole reason they're in the illicit market, right, is because of price. Because you're too expensive in the legal market. Why am I paying 45% more for the same product? If I can buy a gram for $10, why am I going to buy it for 15 when I could get it for 10, right? If I'm smoking on a monthly basis, and I'm smoking $200, I'd pay 200 or 300. Well, obviously I'm going to stick to what I know. So it's hard to convert those people over. So that's a challenge, but we'll get to that after. But I allowed the transactions to happen because I wanted to understand the psychology. You know, I wanted to understand the mindset of the whole industry, and it was amazing to watch how they have their systems set up of what they do, right, and the players that are involved. Because prior to that, you weren't buying it from the farmers directly. You're buying it through the dealers, and the dealers could be dealing with the same distributors that deal with the farmers. So you could be 2 to 3 people removed from the farm, right? And there's obviously the guy that has his relationship with the farm, and he's kind of selling it in bulk. So it's a whole system. It's almost replicated in the legal market now too, right? So, but it was cool to see where it came from, and that was the illicit market. So there was no federal regulations or state regulations oversight or anything. These were systems that happened organically. They created these levers and pulleys to kind of run and manage, and even transporters and transportations. You know, and these guys that are doing it across state lines and things like that. So I kind of watched that, but it got me a great kind of understanding of where the industry came from, which was really kind of cool. And then we started to say, okay, now let's look at the license market and let's pick a kind of a position or pick a target group that we can extract a lot of data from. And we're big on data. You know, we're technology guys. So first and foremost, everything that we do has some underlying tech involved in it. And that kind of got us to where we'll talk about with Kush Klubs and why we did it.
Yeah.
But, you know, long story short, we started to reach out to dispensary owners, and I started to cultivate kind of these relationships with them, and then one leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and we created enough of an audience size of the business guys to begin to analyze the problems, then the challenges, and we're doing a lot of research while we're doing a lot of focus group testing, if you will. And what we equated it down to, you know, for anybody in the supply chain, but more over the retailers and the brands. So other than the cultivators and the distributors, really the manufacturers and the retailers, and by extension now the delivery companies, with everything we kind of saw at a macro level and then going in, were these four main attributes that, if not present and if not solved, will eventually kill their business. And that's the ability or access or the ability to increase your traffic. That's number one. If you can't increase your traffic to your business, right, then you can't, everything's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't have enough eyeballs on you, then your conversions, say you're converting at 3% or 5%, if you only have 100 people, that's 3 to 5 people. If you have 1,000 people, that's 30 to 50 people. So it's getting access to that. But because the black market has 80% of that, and you can't get any of them, then that leaves 200 people, right? If it's 1,000, 80%, now you have 200 people. And if you're competing against 10 other people for 200 people, you already can only get 20%.
Yeah.
And now you have to divide that between the competitors. If you have 10 people that are trying, that's 20 a person, right? But if you have 100, that's 2 a person. And then you're fighting for the same collective gene pool. And the more businesses, the more products that come in to this small pool of potential customers, right? Because you already can't get the rest of the US. You can't, you're pigeonholed there. And then you're pigeonholed in your own market. So increasing traffic is a problem, right? And then the name of the game is loyalty, right? And so the next thing we saw was, okay, you capture somebody, then how do you now take that customer, and how does the end goal happen where you increase your ROI, right? So the first is you've got to start to create more traffic. You've got to be able to pull traffic in from somewhere, anywhere. You have to have that. The second is, now you have this traffic coming in, how do you take a subset of that traffic and now create frequency or repetition, right? Because you know this, if you go to Walmart once a month, and you spend $100 in Walmart, great, you know? But if you're going to Walmart 15 times a month, I guarantee you every time you go there, maybe not every time you buy something, if you want to go window shop at Walmart, but 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, you're going to walk out with something, maybe spend 20, 30 bucks. So if you went once a month, you're spending 100 bucks. But if you go 6, 7, 8 times and you spend 30 bucks, right now you're spending 8 times, you're 240 bucks. So you've increased your spending. And all businesses that are outside of this industry do these loyalty. They try to draw you into this repetition and frequency, right? And you already need frequency to create loyalty. So the first is traffic, the second is frequency. How do I increase the frequency of a customer, right? And the average customer, I think in California, the average transaction is $70. And then the average person goes, I think, once or 1.5, 2 times a month, right? Once every 17 days is what the average person frequented
Is
a
that
dispensary.
for all? At a
A
dispensary.
dispensary, yeah. So they'll go say twice a month. We saw in our data, we had a direct. There was almost like a line with customers. It was either 2 times or 4 times, right? Very few people went 3, and there were very few people went beyond that. And that was kind of the data we got when we did our beta test. But it's increasing that repetition. Then the third part is, okay, now you have frequency, right? And you need, I think, 6 or 8 times. You need that sort of multiple to create the next part, which is loyalty. Now you've got to create loyalty. So now you have to have mechanisms and hooks. Now you're getting increase in your traffic. You're getting increase in your frequency. Now you've got to figure out how you take that repetition and now create hooks to create loyalty, right? Now you want to personalize the experience. You want to make sure that customer, that there's a customer fit, right? That he feels that he's getting his needs met through you, and so he becomes trusting, right? Because the name of the game for loyalty is trust. And then the byproduct of that is dependency. Because once I trust you, then I'll be dependent on you, right? So the next part is that loyalty. And then the last part of that is once you have those kind of that recipe and that wheelhouse turning, then the throughput of that is ROI. Then you're going to increase your revenues. And so we saw when it came down to it, after everything we just talked about and everything we saw, all the challenges that they have, right? We saw that those are the 4 main areas of concentration. If we could solve that challenge and then create a value proposition to a consumer, because then if you're creating this formula here, the natural effect is the consumer benefits from that, right? And they should be benefiting because this is the only industry, I think, and I know I've talked about it before, where the illegal market is cheaper than the legal market, right? If I was hooked on pain pills and I go to the street, it's gonna cost me 10, 15 bucks a pill, 20 bucks a pill. If I went to a pharmacy, it'll cost me 50 cents a pill. But with cannabis, if I go to the street, yeah, I'm spending 10 bucks. If I go to a dispensary, I'm spending 15, right? Or if I'm buying an 8, I'm spending 30 or I'm spending 60 in a dispensary. So it's an unfair playing ground that they've initiated for them. So we kind of looked at that, and that was kind of the genesis. Then we started to develop on that, right?
That's amazing. I mean, you did like a 360 view, in-depth study on the industry and how you can use it and apply it. And so everyone that's listening, I hope you rewatch this, take some notes on this.
We can give you a lot more insight too. And then we started to look at where it was going. Once we knew where it came from and we knew what we could do to help it, then we started to look at what's going to happen and how that's going to impact the present. And so we started to build.
The mastermind behind Kush Klubs, guys.
What's up?
I want to talk to you too more about your fundraiser. So right now, you guys are in WeFunder. I know you spoke so much about the research you did that really has led you to your technology that you're working on. And what's the end goal for Kush Klubs? After the money's raised, or can we go over the features? Because it sounds like you guys are solving a few problems, more than a few problems, are aiming to solve, which is a huge feat.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you guys are aligning yourselves with the local dispensaries. That really helps alleviate some of the problems that the smaller business owners are going to be up against.
Yeah.
I think with your subscription model, that's really helping them to stay in the loop and stay competitive.
We launched the campaign on WeFunder because we wanted to take advantage of the crowdfunding aspect of it.
Great idea.
Yeah, and because not only does it build, it allows you to raise capital, but it allows people that otherwise wouldn't get access to this type of deal to participate in the upside. And everything's a risk, but you know, the companies that are on there, which I'm a big advocate for crowdfunding as well, because it allows you to benefit from companies you otherwise wouldn't be able to benefit from, or wouldn't even know that were existing. They've innovated companies that could be explosive growth, right? And if you micro invest in them, right, which we allow, I think, a minimum of $100 to invest in, then you could get, you know, that upside potential. So we decided to partner with WeFunder. We looked at a few of them, and we chose WeFunder. They were just really a great team, polished, attentive, you know, and they kind of rolled up their sleeves and worked with us. So we're on WeFunder right now. So WeFunder.com/Kush Klubs, 2 Ks, Kush Klubs, and we're raising capital there to commercialize our 2.0. So we did a beta test in late 2020, 2021, and we learned a lot.
Really?
Right? Yeah, I mean, we could go into it for another day of what we learned. But we're big on data, so we're constantly analyzing data. And we learned a lot about the mindset of, you know, the dispensary owners, because what we offer them is a shift in their normal, conventional way of thinking. It's almost like setting up your future today. And very few people, like I was saying even before, with the challenges that they have, very few are kind of thinking in that mindset, right? And you know, conversely, the larger players that are coming in aren't thinking of today, they're thinking of 10 years from now. So they already have the mindset of the future, right? So it's kind of a you know, conflicting ideology for these present small businesses. So it's kind of a learning curve for them as well on what we do. But the ones that have listened to us have seen the upside potential during this beta test. And all we did on the beta test is we wanted to determine, number one, will somebody pay for a cannabis subscription on the consumer side, right? Number two, what sort, can we retain them? Can we upsell them? Can we offer them? Can we create repetition and frequency of that consumer? And then what sort of data could we collect about the market, right? About the retailers, about the brands, about the transactions, and about the consumers. And so we set out, that's all we wanted to do. So we basically built a rough application that allowed them to pick 3 packages then. $84 a month, $119, and $179. And
Is this program active now?
It is. And it would give them access to Cannabis at a discounted rate, right? And we learned quickly as we launched it, we had to add a $349 a month package because they were upselling themselves to the largest package and then running out 10 days in. They were using it that quickly, so they wanted more. So I think 80% plus of the consumers or the members are on the top 2 packages. So they come in for for 1 tier and they upgraded themselves to the largest 2 tiers. The next thing we saw was that we took a customer from 2 times a month, 2 to 4 to 10 to 15, because we created a sort of a hook to draw them in. So back it up, we created a hook that basically said, if you want access to cannabis at, we're gonna beat the black market. So the average cost in a dispensary for a gram is 15 to 20. The average cost in the black market is 10 to 12. if you choose a package with us, you can get it for 5 to 7, right? So already we created that hook to draw people in from the black market because again, the number one reason is price, to start to create some sort of free, increased traffic. And it works in scale, right? So you're not gonna get that much of that move there. That needle's gonna move in your beta, but because you're just capturing who you could capture for the beta, right? But it's gonna move the other needles. So then we said, okay, you get access to those products that are in your part of your subscription, right? And the dispensary chooses which ones they want to put in, and then they have different categories. We started with flower only because flower is still the number one seller in the market over edibles, oils, vapes, tinctures. So we said, okay, let's pick flower. It's easy, you can do that with the flower. And we set up different tiers of flower. You know, club flower, which is what these dispensaries produce on their own, brand flower, and then regular premium exotic. And when we started, we only had two or three categories of flower. Now we have 6 or 8. So we learned that they were hungry, these people were hungry for more. But we set it up and we said, okay, each subscription comes with a certain amount of credits, right?
Okay.
Because then we wanted to create, if you're gonna do this, then you have to create some sort of a system where they could transact. And because we're a technology provider, we can't get involved in the transaction. And that was a big challenge we had to overcome because technically speaking, you could lay a claim that we're involved in the transaction, we're facilitating it, but we're not. We're facilitating the technology that allows them to transact. So one of the ways in which we were able to do that was to get access to credits. So their credits would fill up in their wallet, and then every time they went into a dispensary, they would use their credits to transact, and it would transfer to the dispensary's wallet, so they own their own wallet. And then we would, tally all those credits up at the end of the month, and the dispensary would get their money, right? Conversion of those credits. But we realized, we said, okay, we want to now take this customer and create repetition from this customer. So we have all these mechanisms for them to transact with each other. They could go onto the platform, they could become a member, they could choose a subscription, they get a certain amount of credits, they get a wallet, they get to discover a dispensary that they want to go to and patronize and look at the products and reserve the product. Then we wanted to make it simple and easy for them to transact. So we gave them a wallet, they walk into a dispensary, they pull out their wallet, they scan it, right? It says what they're getting, what they reserved, and then they were able to change that to if they see something else that they like, and then automatically it's done for them and they leave. No cash, no outlay, no worry, no hassle. So we created that whole mechanism, and then we said, okay, if they're gonna go in and take advantage of these pricings, right? The trade-off is we want them to go more frequently, right? So we limited their daily allowance, right? And we allow them to pick up effectively up to an 1/8 a day, right?
Yeah.
So if they have 30 credits and it's 3 credits and 8, they can go 10 times and pick it up. So we started to change the frequency, and you could throttle that up or down. You could give them access to more, but we wanted to pick a position and see if we could affect consumer behavior, and we did.
How many locations is Kush Klubs?
4.
Okay.
Right.
So where are you guys based out of right now?
We have 3 California cannabis dispensaries,
Okay.
and then
Throughout the entire state, or
No, it's just actually
Southern California?
Yeah, LA,
Okay.
right? Again, we stayed close to home for our beta run, so it was 4 dispensaries in and around the LA market: Crenshaw, Melrose, Soto, which is near downtown, and then Huntington Park, which is where Omni is. So we wanted to cover different
Okay.
demographics as well, and kind of see who's navigating more towards this.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we did, and then we added benefits to it as well. So reserving your product, skipping the line so you could get priority service, and other benefits that you would get, specials, access to other things, just during this test. And it was incredible, the data that we got back. But we also got back feedback, and we also got back, through engagement with both the supply chain as well as the consumers, we got, sort of data back on what was working, what wasn't working, what we need to build up, next. And one of the things that we realized is that once they came, they stayed. For the consumer side, once they came, most of them stayed on the platform. And once they're in the platform, they upgraded themselves. They came for the $5 gram, but they're going for a $15 one, right? But still saving a ton, but they're getting the better quality now because they can afford the better quality, right? And on the supply chain or the dispensary retail side, we also increased the frequency, increased the loyalty, increased the ROI. We doubled the ROI for them on this one customer, because what we were talking about earlier is you go 15 times to Walmart, or 10, you're going to spend more money there. You're not going every time without. And the consumer psychology is, I'm getting this almost for free, because in my mind I already paid for it back then. Now I'm getting the benefit of it. So every time I walk in, I'm not thinking I'm spending money. So you have the chance to upsell me. And then you have the chance to understand what I like as well, because it breeds loyalty. But we realized what challenges were still there, and we realized what we needed to build out around this present technology, and that's when we started to put together our 2.0 that we're building and developing now.
Okay.
And that we're launching. So we're lowering the price point to get in, which is we're going to have a free version of this, so you can take advantage of certain things, and then at the end of 30 days you try it for free. Then it'll be $15 a month to give you access to the discounts, the benefits, and some of the other social elements that we're putting into this 2.0 as well, because we realized that the community, right, it was not present, right? They have very limited access to a communal, and this is really building a community of people, right, that kind of learn and recommend, and because that's one of the two ways in which they get product anyways. They either go in and ask a bud tender, which is giving all the power to the dispensary and the bud tender, or they ask a friend, right? Or they, what do you recommend? So we wanted to build that into this 2.0, but we lowered the price point for them to get in, and the $15 a month will give them access to all of the benefits, but 20% off. So if they spend the average $70 every time they go into a dispensary, then the first time they go in, they would have effectively paid for their membership. Every time they go in, they're saving that money. It's called Kush Pass, right? Within Kush Klubs. And then, because we wanted to lower them to get in, the more we have coming in, the more we will be able to actually build critical mass, learn data on, and offer these insights and a leverage to the dispensaries. So we wanted to lower that barrier to entry and then lower the barrier to entry for the dispensaries and the brands to get in. The next thing too, in the present beta, there wasn't a lot of room for brands visibility other than through the dispensary. And that really bothered us because we wanted the brands to have a presence within our ecosystem as well, right? So they can build out their own pages, they can engage their own audiences, they can market and promote their product, people could recommend their product, like it, follow it. So we wanted to build and bake that in to this. So the 2.0 is really cool. And you can learn all about it on WeFunder too, because we have a lot of that information.
Smart. Anyone should be getting involved with this, either as a consumer you can save money, and as an investor, which is exciting. I think becoming a micro investor, like you said, being a part of something that can really solve a lot of problems that we can already foresee and are already taking place. I think that's amazing that you are able to create your own ecosystem, you know, as far as the transactions and, you know, going back to what you were saying, providing loyalty and perks. And subscription models is just like where it's at.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
You know, I
so
agree.
to put
with
that to the cannabis industry is really, really smart, really exciting.
It is. It's actually really cool to see this unfold.
You go to wefunder.com/Kush Klubs. See if you can be a part of this exciting venture. I was able to get a little gift bag, and this thing is so cool, guys. I encourage you to just go and see if you can invest whatever you can. Like you said, $100 minimum. This bag is ahead of its time too. I mean, it's smell proof.
Yeah.
It's got a lock on it and some really amazing torch lighters.
Yeah.
I mean, those things are
cool,
no joke.
I know.
So is there anything else you want us to know about becoming an investor?
No, I mean, we're open to, we want, it's limited obviously by the amount. We're not raising an unlimited amount of capital. We're raising a limited amount of capital. And becoming part of the investor community. If you have any questions and you want to reach out to us, you can through WeFunder. Any additional questions, I'm open for discussions for anybody, small or big, it doesn't matter the size of the investment. We're looking to do some really cool, unique things within the industry, and obviously you need capital to do it. So hence the reason we're raising the capital now. But any questions you have, you can let us know. You can reach out to me personally. You know, I'm jp@kushklubs.com. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's been amazing talking to you. We literally could talk for another 5 hours. Doing these podcasts and meeting other people in the industry, we're hearing what problems business owners, dispensary owners, consumers, we're all facing, and we're just trying to stay ahead of the curve, encourage our lawmakers to really listen to the people so we don't get taken advantage of as cannabis becomes federally legalized. And if we can maintain some sort of control, I think we'll definitely be winning.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a fight.
And that's another thing too, we are big on community and cause, and we want to help. And a portion of the proceeds from, you know, the sales that we do on the platform are going to go towards causes, because we want to be right front and center. And I wanted to add one more thing too, is that we're also adding to our offering through WeFunder. We're doing a series of NFTs, Rasta.
Oh,
and
yes.
The investors, I can't remember the level that you're gonna get it at. I think it starts at 1,000 investment, but we'll be doing these Rasta card NFTs, which should kind of be really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're gonna figure out how to build out sort of a Farmville type of thing with the Rasta. So it's kind of fun. They're working on that project right now. So you get the benefit of that too. So,
hey, I know you guys really need to get involved here, get in on all of these opportunities. NFTs are the future. That's so cool. So you and I are going to talk more and more about that. We already have started talking about that conversation.
Correct.
So if you want to know more, just check out his WeFunder campaign and also follow them on Instagram. I'll put their handles below, and subscribe to Kush Klubs. You know, get save some money, and get blown. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
And we didn't get to smoke, but we were gonna smoke, but we could do it next time.
Yeah, we're getting the joints ready in the background right now. So.
Oh yeah, good. Very good. All right.
But thanks so much for coming down. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you, Angelica. It's awesome.
All right.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Bye.